Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Show Day. I'm your host, Diana Shabai Booker, and my guest today claims to be a movie buff, but he doesn't even have a Blu-ray player, so I don't know what to make of that. Immediate shade. Please welcome Jack Whalen.
Hello.
Hi, Jack.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So, like everyone else on this podcast, you and I met when we did Spring Awakening at SLOC. You played, I always get the dudes' names mixed up, Georg?
Yes.
Yes, the one who's in love with his teacher. And during that production, I famously threatened to rip your fingernails off when you left a drink on a prop table.
That is true.
Which I tell that story to everybody. You and Aiden, who we've had on the podcast, are friends. And when Aiden and I met, he said that he knew you, and I immediately told him that story, and that's the story I tell to everybody because I'm an abusive stage manager. But how did you first get into the arts?
Oh my gosh. I guess if we're really going back, in kindergarten, I played the son in my class's production of Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Okay, so the sun, like the sun.
We had like a stuffed yellow pillowcase, and I was tasked with pulling a little string that raised it and then lowering it.
Wow.
And I remember during one of the rehearsals, I accidentally dropped it and I cried. And
oh no.
So it was really embarrassing.
Well, that's what rehearsal's for.
Yeah,
that's like kind of high tech for a kindergarten production.
Yeah,
You got a pulley
like,
system?
Back, yeah. But my first like real show was 7th grade. We did High School Musical, and I was Ripper the Skater Dude.
Ripper the Skater. I can't say I remember him. Does he have a famous line?
So during Stick to the Status Quo, he's the like skater guy who's like, oh, I play the cello, and then he
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah. Everyone was calling me Jack the Ripper.
Wow.
Which was like, oh, awesome guys.
Is that
cool. Like
not a great nickname? I don't know.
I feel like Jack is associated with so many things. Like Aiden's mom, for example, when we worked at the coffee shop, she would always greet me by saying, "Hi, Jack." That's not something you can say on a plane. And like the first few times, it was like, "Oh, that's cute," but like it would be like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd walk in, she's like, "Hi, Jack." That's something you can say on the plane. I'm like, I just woke up. Like,
cut it out, Cindy.
Coffee,
yeah,
please. Yeah. So
that's funny. So okay. So High School Musical, this formative thing. Do you remember, like, did you ever have a moment where you're like, oh yeah, that's the thing that I want to be involved in?
Yeah. I think it started with High School Musical, like realizing that like singing in the shower wasn't just like a me thing, and like I really enjoyed doing it. And then I remember our middle school did a program called YPA, which was Young Performers of America.
Okay.
And so we had 3 Broadway stars come to our school and do like a little workshop. And I can't remember the 3 that came the first time. I believe it was Cara Lindsay, Lauren Osnes, and then I can't remember the third. It was Tommy Bracco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are like names.
Yeah. Right. And of course, like I didn't know anything about theater at the time, so I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then like a few years down the line, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like met like these stars.
Yeah.
But working with them and realizing how passionate they were, and like giving us like their experiences and everything, I was like, whoa, like this is like a real thing that like I could do for like my enjoyment, but also for like the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I sort of only know your work from Spring, which was wonderful. Like you got to absolutely wail during Touch Me, which that's one of my favorite songs in the show, and that part is so good, and you were so good in it. And with Elizabeth Sherwood Mack, who was just on our last episode, who you got to undress during the show. What sort of other things have you done? Like what are some of your favorite roles?
Oh my gosh. I was Charlie Brown in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Oh, fun.
Park Playhouse. That was very fun. I was Race in my 10th grade school's production of Newsies, which was fun. He's the one with the cigar, and yeah. So I just got to be like a goofball. I'm trying to think about. I mean, Georg was amazing because it was my first show in 4 years, I think.
Okay.
And so meeting all like these new people, it was my first time like auditioning for a show and like being like, oh my gosh, like I actually am like terrified right now. Like it had been so many years, and so that was like a great like reintroduction to it all. And,
yeah. So what, if you hadn't auditioned for 4 years, what made you want to for that show?
I love Spring Awakening. It's like probably my top 5. And also like I was taking a year off from school because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I didn't really have much going on, and I saw like Slog post about it, and I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, and I actually I pressured, in a way, gently pressured Aiden to audition with me. And the day before auditions, he's like, I'm not gonna audition. But I had already prepped everything, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. Like, why not?
Oh my God. Does Aiden sing?
Yeah. Well,
I didn't know that.
So he and I did a little like show at Cupola before we turned into the Archive, and it was just like me and him and our acoustic guitars.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
Aiden, open invitation for you and Jack to come on this podcast and do music. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how that would work, but love that. That's amazing. So you're back in school now. What are you going to school for?
I'm studying English education.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. What drew you to that?
I've loved reading and writing for as long as I can remember, and my grandmother was a teacher, and a lot of family friends are teachers, and everybody's like, oh, you'd be such a good teacher, you'd be such a good teacher. And I had just finished getting my associates at SUNY Adirondack in Queensbury, and I graduated with a degree in media arts.
Okay.
And I was like, I really like this like digital production and everything, but I hate selling myself, and I hate freelance. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to continue with this. And so that's when I took the year off, and then I, like during COVID especially, I just got into reading a ton of books, and I was like, like I want to talk about these books with somebody. Why don't I just become a teacher, get paid to do that, and then like be able to like boss kids around? You know, just kidding. It was mostly because I do want, like, I feel like younger generations are reading less and less and less, and that's terrifying to me, because I feel like literature is like, if I were to like rank the arts, I feel like literature is like almost like top tier, and I feel like young people especially could take so much away from that. So yeah, I feel like when you're in school, you don't appreciate things that you read, right? Like, especially I remember reading Catcher in the Rye. My poor teacher, she was like, don't you just like relate to Holden? And I was like, no, he's a whiny little bitch. But it's like, now I read as a Catcher in the Rye, and it's like, yeah, okay, I get but
that.
He still is a whiny little bitch.
100%.
But like, I remember we read The Great Gatsby my 11th grade year, and I took it was a program called IB, so it was like a more discussion-based course, and so we would read the book outside of class and come back in and just discuss it. And I remember I read like the first probably 50 pages, and I was like, this is a snooze fest. This Jay guy needs to get his shit like together. Like, I don't care about any of these people. They're all just like rich, like, oh, woe is me. And then I reread it my first semester at Plattsburgh, where I am now, earlier this year, and I was like, this book rocks. Like, Jay Gatsby is like, he's like literally me. Like, I'm literally him. So yeah, I think it's tough teaching classics to younger people, because you need to like have like a clear connection between, like, while this is an old book, there's a lot that is still like present today, and there's a lot that you can find about yourself through it. So that's really encouraging. That's why you want to do that. And and some of the I went to school for communications, but I took English classes as well. And I remember some of the things I had to read, and I was like, I'm not going to do anything with this. But like, now I realize the connection, right? Like having to read Waiting for Godot. And it's like, well, that's done all the time. And that's like a super important part of theater. Or like, I recently watched a movie called Smooth Talk, and it's based on a Joyce Carol Oates story called Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been, which I read in college. And I was like, I don't care about this, but it's like, now I have the basis for this, just for like enjoying media. And so, that's a really important topic. And I think that you would be an excellent, cool English teacher. Thank you. What's your favorite book? It's called Stoner. By John Williams. It's about you just follow this man's life. It's very somber, very mundane, but he grows up on a farm with his parents. they send him off to college with all the money they have to study agriculture, and then he takes one English course, falls in love with it. There we go. And then he just like studies English, becomes a professor at the school, and then you just follow his whole life. And it's kind of like what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
It's like you're just like a snapshot into this person's life, but there's something with the writing that is so personal and so like descriptive that you feel everything he's feeling. You understand his motives if he really has any.
Yeah.
And William Stoner, who's the main character, is like probably my favorite fictional character of all time because he's just a guy who is, I think they introduce him in the beginning of the book, the most unextraordinary man in the world. But there's something so like relatable but also so kind of introspective about that, where you put the book down and you're like, he's like kind of living the same life I'm living. He's just going day by day.
Yeah.
And he's not really, there's no urge for him to be like, I need to become this like big, like huge, like English professor or this big, like whatever. It's just a guy living his life. And I don't know. It's just very, very
well, beautiful. I've never heard of that book, but that sounds interesting, honestly. And it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today. So we're talking movies today.
Yes.
We're not talking about theater. I thoroughly went through your Letterboxd preparing for today. So judging by your Letterboxd favorites, which are Before Sunset, When Harry Met Sally, Good Will Hunting, and La La Land, you are a big fan of romances.
I am.
Or romantic comedies.
Yes.
Which I think is sort of uncommon for a man.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like make you pick me or anything.
I completely agree.
But what draws you to that genre?
I am somebody who loves being a hopeless romantic. Like, I love to yearn. If I could yearn for my whole life, like, as morbid as that sounds, like, I would. But there's something so special about the connection between two people to me, and I think love is almost like, you can't define what it is. It's different for everybody. And so watching, like, this film, whatever film it is, and how the writers or the director decide, or the actors even decide to portray that is so unique to me. I think specifically When Harry Met Sally, I remember I watched that my senior year of high school for a essay for one of my classes, and the essay was just like all over the place. I think I got like a B or something on it because my teacher was like, I get what you're saying, but it was kind of like all over the place. But it was just like, I was just like gushing about how it's a romantic comedy, but it's not trying to be funny. It's just like these people, and they're living their lives, and the things that happen, like everything that happens is just like, there's something so charming about it that it makes you like laugh. And I think that there's something about that that's so special, and like human connection and how it's portrayed in film and television and everything. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah. And that I was thinking about this weekend, about the romance genre and how it's, very often written off as something that's doesn't have substance. Right. But I think that love is one of the very few things that like all humans can connect to. It crosses class boundaries and race and gender and everything, and everyone experiences love or the lack thereof or yearning in some sense or another. And it, but I can't relate to like superhero movies. Like, I'm never going to do anything in those movies, but those are the things people go to see. And maybe that's part of like escapism. Maybe romance is too raw for some people. But yeah, it's one of my favorites too. And my mom is a big rom-com fan, Nora Ephron especially, speaking of When Harry Met Sally. So I totally get all of that. Yeah. That's great. Do you have any favorite directors or filmmakers?
Oh gosh. I love Wes Anderson. He's never I find that he's never in my top like films of all time, but I always like, if I'm recommending anybody director, it's Wes Anderson. There's something just like, anytime you put on any of his movies, you're just like you're warm and you're like, oh, this is like such a cozy time. I love this. I mean, Scorsese, but like, who cares? Like, everybody loves Scorsese. honestly, Richard Linklater. I think the way he can go from making Before Sunrise to School of Rock. Like, who could do that? Who can say that they did that?
Yeah. I totally forgot he did School of Rock. That's one of my, like, again, not in my top 4 favorites, but, like, movies that, like, that was one of those movies my younger brother, when he was little, would just play it just over and over and over again. I can recite that movie top to bottom, and I love it so much. Yeah.
But if I guess Wes Anderson's probably my favorite.
Yeah. No, I love Wes Anderson, too. I will go see anything he does.
I still haven't seen the new one.
I have not either. Phoenician Scheme, yeah. But I've seen everything up to that point. Asteroid City was the last one, yeah. But yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is like my Thanksgiving movie. Yeah. Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Last Waltz back to back. It's the best Thanksgiving double feature. Yeah. But yeah, I love filmmakers that have a vision. Yeah. You know, sort of no matter what that is. Like after David Lynch died this year, I know I was revisiting a lot of his stuff and like totally admit I do not get David Lynch sometimes. No. Like, I'm maybe one of the few people in the world that watches a lot of movies and, like, doesn't get the hype of Mulholland Drive. But I just so appreciate, he's like, this is what we're doing. Yeah. And this is, like, beginning to end. This person clearly has a vision. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. Okay. So, also preparing for today, I went through your watch list. Oh, gosh. And
I will say there's movies on my watch list that I've seen, but I put them back on because I want to rewatch them.
Okay, good. Because there are several things on there that I can't believe you haven't seen. Not because I'm judging you, but just because I think you would love them.
Yes.
So now I need you to tell me if you've actually seen these things or not. Okay, I just picked out a few. Have you seen Past Lives?
No.
Okay.
I have started it, I think. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I started it, but I haven't finished it, I think.
Yeah, it's... Now that I've seen the movies we're going to talk about today, very similar. Come On.
No, I want to see it so bad.
I just watched it recently. I think it was on like Tubi or something free. Okay. And it was really good. I like... I'm starting to like Joaquin Phoenix more and more. I don't like Joker, but I love like the... I don't know, character-y things he does. Like I really like Beau is Afraid too. And not just because Patty was in it. I just like it when he does weird stuff. I think he's a weird guy and like it's almost like Nicolas Cage in a way.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, I just
it's
like
funny you say that because I was just listening to the episode with Aiden before I came here.
Oh, when we talk about Nick Cage?
Yeah, I was like, how do I prep? And I was like, I don't know. But I feel like Joaquin, like you can watch him in interviews and he's just like kind of like he's there, but he's not there. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He very much feels like an alien with people's skin on, and when he like, and he's not. It's not even like a weird movie. It's very much sort of in the vein of like Paper Moon. Like there's a what's the word? Like a smart ass kid and a sort of lost boy adult, and they go on this journey together, and it's very sweet. Okay. Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
No, I know, and it's like. I should watch it tonight because it's the end of Pride Month and like
it is the end of Pride Month. Yeah, no, that's like one of those movies where it's like we showed it here for Pride Month. I had a hand in co-programming it, and that was definitely one of the ones I wanted to show. And it's like I didn't know how many people were going to show up to this thing. It's like it's this period piece about French lesbians, and it's in French, and you have to read subtitles the whole time. But we had to like.
I will say, people who have a problem with subtitles. Piss me off.
I only watch movies with subtitles, and I like not that I only watch foreign language film, but I put the subtitles on.
Exactly. Like my favorite thing is when I go to watch a movie with my parents, and they're like, "Can you turn subtitles off?" And I'm like, "No,
I can't."
Like, there's something I love about reading what they're saying, but also like how they're reading it, and I think that's so interesting.
Yes.
And, like, I don't know. Maybe. I want to do like a research thing on like subtitles and why people enjoy them and why people don't.
That would be really interesting.
Because like I feel like there has to be a reason why like certain people love subtitles.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. It just helps me. It's like, did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
And then it bothers me when the subtitles are very clearly wrong or someone is skipping the point, and it's like then I have to turn them off, and then I can't hear as well.
Yeah. I'll mention that when we get to the main topic of today because. I do have qualms with subtitles for a certain movie.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
But yeah, so Portrait, I didn't know how many people were going to come or whatever the deal was, and we had people stay after just discussing it so long after, we had to like kick them out because we had to close the theater. Yeah. So like Gorgeous movie. Okay. In the Mood for Love.
No.
Okay.
Like, I know.
Okay, my last one is Begin Again.
No.
Okay. That's all your homework.
Okay.
And also, this one I am judging you for, if you haven't seen it, is Singing in the Rain.
Okay. I have watched it.
Okay.
But I want to rewatch it because I was watching it. After I graduated senior year, I did a summer camp, Carpe Diem Theater.
Okay.
And I was senior tech director for Singing in the Rain. And I watched it while we were putting on the production. And it's like a month-long camp. And so all of the senior counselors are just losing their minds. And I watched it in probably the worst mood ever.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to watch this. I've heard like a bunch of 15-year-old kids sing this music over and over again.
Oh, sure.
And it's like when I listen to it. So I do intend on rewatching it.
Okay.
Just soon-ish.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time. So that's why I was going to judge you for that. And then I wrote, actually, except for Stop Making Sense, you haven't seen any of my favorite movies, which is offensive.
That's what I should have done. Instead of like doing research for
you should have just watched my favorite movies because you're on my podcast. But the other two are It's a Wonderful Life and All That Jazz.
I want to watch All That Jazz so bad. I literally almost watched it a week ago because I was like laying in bed bored and I was watching clips of Alan Cumming in Cabaret. And then I went on Letterboxd, was looking at all the different movies, and then I saw All That Jazz, and I was like, I need to watch it.
That's actually, Jack and I were talking about this before we started rolling the cameras about how I don't like blind buying Criterions because they're expensive, but I did blind buy All That Jazz, and I loved it so much I watched it twice in 18 hours. Like, I was like, did I really love that as much as I thought I did? Yes, yes, I did. I love All That Jazz. Roy Scheider is incredible, and just the audacity. I've talked about, this is the first episode I talked about All That Jazz, but just the audacity Bob Fosse had to write and direct a movie about his own life and cast his actual mistress as the mistress in, like, Anne Rankin plays herself. It is unbelievable.
And to make a movie pretty much about yourself and make yourself look like
just as like was a bad boy. He had bad behavior and he shows it, and the whole like message of the movie is this lifestyle is going to kill me. And it did, and he like died of a heart attack at 60 in Gwen Verdon's arms. Like, he didn't stop even though he totally knew what was going to happen to him. And anyway, All That Jazz is amazing. Highly recommend. Okay, so today we are specifically talking about movie trilogies. We're going to get into it now, which I love the idea of a trilogy, and I think it lends itself really nicely to art, sort of the beginning, middle, and end thing of everything. So we are specifically discussing one trilogy we're going to focus on, the Before trilogy, which you have brought your Criterion box set.
Yes, which I can't watch because I don't own a Blu-ray player, as we previously established.
So yeah, you said there were some like nice supplements in there, or our third guest is the box set.
The box set.
Yeah.
So first of all, the art on all three boxes or three cases.
Beautiful.
For
those not familiar with the Criterion collection, maybe we should say. So it's like not a production company. It's like a distributor. It's this company. Their mission is to preserve and restore films that are important to the art world. Some of them are like hard to get. Some of them they just think are important. Like No Country for Old Men is in the Criterion collection, right? Which isn't like some art house film, but but yeah. So it's sort of this like sort of top tier boutique, I think it's called, movie people. I don't know, but so there's
it's like vinyls for movie people.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, and so all of the movies have like a spine number, so you can collect them all if you want to.
We have 856 here.
856 right there. There you go. And currently this month we're in the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale. Ooh. So go to your local Barnes & Noble and get yourself some Criterion. So anyway, so they're beautifully preserved here.
And then it comes with like a little booklet with photos. I feel like I'm like doing like a little
like show and tell.
Yeah, little photos, like screenshots. And there's a little piece by an author, Dennis Lim, about the story, production, all of that jazz. Yeah. And then some special thanks and stuff like that.
I love that. I love when they do special things there. I think it's I have a couple of them. I have True Stories, which is a movie by David Byrne, who I've talked on this podcast about how much I love David Byrne. That's not a secret, but he got inspired by this movie by seeing like tabloid headlines, like you know, what's the famous shitty tabloid that I can't think of right now? The
Onion?
No.
I'm like, wait, tabloid?
Yeah, not like People or Us, like the ones that are just like weird alien found, like the grocery store.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. I'll put it on the screen later whenever I think of it. But he was inspired by all these like weird stories, and his idea was like, what if these are true? So the supplement for True Stories is like a newspaper basically, and it has the essay in it and everything, but they sort of customize it to what the movie is, which is really cool. But okay, so the Before trilogy,
yes,
directed by Richard Linklater, stars Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy as sort of they have this chance meeting in Vienna. They spend one unforgettable night together, and then the next movie is 9 years later, and the next movie is 9 years after that. So, please, do you remember the first time you saw these movies?
So I watched them during COVID.
Okay.
I watched the first two in one night, and then I saw reviews for the third one, and I held off for a little bit because I was like, okay, people are like kind of divided on this one, and then I watched it, and I was like, oh, I get why. And I think the only one I needed a rewatch for was the third one.
Okay.
Because I was like, it's just... So, anyway, the first one, Before Sunrise, I remember I watched it, and immediately I was like, this is like my kind of movie.
Yeah.
Like, I get it so hard. And I do this thing where if I watch a movie or like anything and I enjoy it, I'll watch like hours upon hours of interviews, like different like video essays and stuff.
Yep.
And I probably have spent more time watching video essays on the trilogy than watching the movies themselves. But there's something so lovely about, like we said, like kind of watching how Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy, like how they explore the idea of love, and then having that be like shown in different basically decades of their lives is something that's so unique and special. Of course, Richard Linklater, oh my gosh, I need more water. Cut. Richard Linklater did direct Boyhood, which like everybody is like, oh, it's just like a little like, look at, I shot this movie over like however many years. And I think he applies that kind of technique to this trilogy so well. I think following these characters that you get to know so intimately, because it's just two people and you're following them just talking. That's all these movies are. So like by the third one, you know them like they're your friends or like whatever, and there's something so vulnerable about that, and it's the way that they create these characters is very similar to how I feel like people approach love. With like the first one is kind of like the hope or like the fantasy of love, and then the second one is kind of like the realization of what love is, but also still having kind of like the naivety of like, well, it could be more than that. And then the third one is like, no, like this is love. Suck it up, like whatever. So for those who have not seen it, so it's they meet. The first one came out in 1995, and they meet on a train just by chance. They're both on the same train in Vienna, or going to Vienna, and he's supposed to get off there and she's supposed to keep going to Paris. But they get to his stop and they've been talking for a while, and he says, come with me. He says, I don't have money for a hotel, I was just gonna walk around all night. Let's spend this night together. And I love, he's like, think of me as a time traveler, and I'm coming to you now from the future, and I'm telling you, if you don't get off this train with me, you're gonna have the memory of that one guy you met on a train that like you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and you're going to be stuck with a shitty husband, and you're going to be miserable, and you're going to think, what if I got off the train with him? What if I got off the train with him? And then it kind of plays back into the third movie, but we'll get there when we get there. But I love that little moment.
And that's like sort of it. She gets off the train, and they walk around Vienna the whole time, and they fall in love. Yeah. And like you said, it is they just have this immediate like deep connection, and they are immediately talking about like all these vulnerable topics. Yeah. And it's just like, how does that like that doesn't happen to people, right? And so you like know that they are supposed to be not even like together forever, but they're supposed to be together in this moment. Yeah. And like I am just love the idea that one day with one person can change the course of your life. That was okay. I'll tell you my actual review because I've hidden it from Jack until now. Okay, so Before Sunrise, I wrote, wow, so simple but so intense. I love the idea that one day with one person could change the course of your life. I love the long shots of their conversations when they're on that bus or the trolley or whatever it is at the back, and they're just like, just in their like own world. And it feels like, I think I wrote this, it feels like you're eavesdropping, like you're just there and you're just sort of on that bus with them, but you are like truly watching these two people fall in love. And at the end of the first one, they go their separate ways, and you sort of they make plans to meet up, but you don't know if they do or not. And I love that ending too. I love that it's just that one night. My only qualm with it, I wrote Ethan Hawke is always a little too smarmy for me. Oh my
gosh. Okay.
So not a total perfect score, but would watch again. Also, I would have gone to that guy's cow play.
Yes. No, it's so funny because everybody I know that I've shown this movie to always mentions at the end, like, I wish I could have seen that play.
I know.
Like, it's one of my favorite bits in the whole movie. And they do like point out like, oh, we missed the guy's play. But I will say about the Ethan Hawke point though. Yeah. There's something so funny about these movies to me because I love them, but I hate Jesse, Ethan Hawke's character.
Really?
I think he is so, like, he's so much of a man. And, like, I know you mentioned, like, it's very rare for a man to love romance movies, but I love watching, like, whiny, like, boyish men just get absolutely, like destroyed by an intelligent woman who like is so self-assured, and like that's this whole movie for me. There's a scene where they're talking about if there was one man on an island with 99 women and then one woman 99 men, and they're talking about like the gender roles there. And he says like there's something he says something about how men or women have like this desire to like take down men or to like kind of like bring them down to like a level where they're above them. And then Celine mentions that what if feminism was created by men so we could feel good about ourselves and they could like lure us in and be like, oh, you're so powerful, you're so kind. And like it's just like little things like that. But I think it's so funny in this movie because Ethan Hawke's character is that like dreamer, like he's so like you can tell that he's like so enamored by her. And the scene in the Ferris wheel when they kiss for the first time, he's like, oh, the sun's setting, we're on this Ferris wheel, like, and then she looks at him, she's like, do you want to kiss?
Right.
Like, come on.
And immediately like the widest, most open mouth kiss like, of all cinema.
I will say the kiss in that, I'm like, oh.
It's intense.
But it's like so funny to me because he is like so boyish, and like it's like I'm watching like a 12-year-old boy in a 20-something-year-old's body. And then Celine like holds herself to like this mature level, very grounded, very self-assured, and then in the more intimate moments between the two, it's like just like these two young kids like falling in love for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, life is so good, love is so good.
No, it's so true. She is like very out of his league. Like she's this beautiful French woman. At one point he
like, first of all, beautiful French woman, like
just you could just watch this movie and stare at her all the time. At one point he calls her a Botticelli angel or something like that, which is so true. And he's just like this fucking greasy
his hair
Ethan Hawke.
Is so greasy, and he has this leather jacket, and I know like dig towards the sound people on the movie, but the constant like crinkling and crackling of his leather jacket, like especially what scene is it? I think it's when they're on the little train going towards somewhere, and he's like constantly shifting, and all you hear is I'm like just sit down, stop like fidgeting, it's so annoying.
Right. And maybe that's some commentary on like Americans versus European people, but yeah, they do seem like kind of, I don't know, mismatched, but maybe they've like, that's the point, right? That they need the things that they lack and they find them in the other person. But I felt that way about Ethan Hawke in like Boyhood too. I just feel like that's
my mom
what he
was
plays.
So funny. When I showed her the trilogy, she's like, I don't like Ethan Hawke. He's smarmy. He's like annoying. And I'm like, I got some bad news for you. That's exactly like what he is in this movie. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she watched it. She's like, okay, but like I like them.
Yeah.
Like I want to watch them.
Yes, exactly.
Like, then you're gonna love these movies.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, I don't know, something about the first one was just like, that was my favorite out of the three. I watched all three of them within 24 hours of each other, I think. Yeah. So sorry, do you have more to say about the first one before I go to Sunset?
I have like a bunch of notes.
Please,
but
yes.
I won't like take too long. The three specific scenes that I love in the movie are the little Q&A when they're sitting on the back of the trolley and like they're just like going back and forth and he's clearly just a hornball, like whatever. And she's like, you're discussing your man, and then she like starts talking about her first like love when she was a young girl, and it was like this like swimmer, and she's like, oh, he shaved his legs, it was so sexy. And then he's like, well, I'll have you know I'm a fantastic swimmer. And it's like just like the little like bits of like dialogue that I'm like, oh, that's so cute. The listening booth scene when they're in the record store,
and they just
like
I'm not even sure
he looks at her and then like as soon as she goes to look at him, he's like, he looks away, and it's like the most tense, like just like kiss already, like you're so clearly in love with each other. And then my other favorite scene is when they're in I believe it's like a little restaurant or something, and they're pretending to call their friends, and it's just them describing each other like to one another, and like they're just being so honest, and to an extent like kind of like brutally honest, but like in a way that like is like charming, like they're talking to their friend, right? And there's a point in that scene towards the end where Julie Delpy's character is like talking about him and like how she's like, I think I'm in love with him, and he's like sitting there like with his hand up like he's on a phone, and then he slowly just like,
I know they both have this, and she starts to put like her finger in her mouth too. It's
and they're like just like start
steamy,
looking, and then like Ethan Hawke goes and like she, like sits back up, and I'm like, oh, like come on, man. It's like small moments like that are, it's all about the body language, I feel, in this first one especially, because while they are like talking so much, they're kind of like trying to avoid just talking about like each other because they don't know when they're going to see each other again. Right. So rather than talking about their love, they just talk about what they like have experienced with love, and then towards the end they're like, okay, like I love you, right? It's like, oh.
So they who gets on the train? She gets on the train to go to Paris. And so they say, we're gonna meet back here in Vienna in 6 months, and see you later. And she gets on the train, and that's the last shot, and they just fade out, and we don't know what happens. But then 9 years later we get Before Sunset. Do you know if this was a planned trilogy or it just happened to work out this way?
I don't believe it was planned. I watched a GQ interview with Ethan Hawke where he talked about it. And shortly after it was released, I think they thought, like, what if we did a sequel? But I don't know if it was planned to be like the 9-year gap or what have you. But I know Ethan Hawke mentioned like people were joking like, oh, what are you going to call it, Before Sunset? And it was like a big like joke. And then when they finally came to like titling it, they're like, yeah. So
amazing. So okay, so it's 9 years later. Jesse is on a book tour. He's become an author, and he finds himself in Paris. And guess who shows up to his book signing? Celine. So you said this one is your favorite of the trilogy, and one of your favorite movie of all time. So why this one?
I think there's something so like I say, like, I've used the word charming so often, but like I feel like that's what these movies are in a way. But like them coming together after these 9 years, and it takes a little bit to get there, but like probably like 20 minutes into the movie, it's like they're back to where they were.
Yeah.
And they're like reliving that night, but in the context of like their lives 10 years later. And I think this is probably like the most vulnerable they are in the trilogy. I don't know, it's like a mix between this one and the third one, but the scene in the car when they're driving Celine back to her apartment specifically, when she's describing how her image of love has been completely tainted because of their night together. She's like, there was something so grotesquely romantic about that night, and I can't help but think about it every time I'm with a new person. And she's like, I separate myself when I'm in a relationship because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to feel the things I felt after I never saw you again.
Yeah.
And he's talking about like how like he's like living a similar life where he can't stop thinking about that night, but he's married now and he has a kid.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm married, but I'm not happy, but I love my son and I don't want to hurt him, but I can't keep living in this marriage where I keep thinking about you. And that's something I have an issue with, Jesse. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's them kind of dealing with the aftermath of the first one while also realizing that like they're meeting these 9 years later. While it could be described as fate, it's also like kind of like this like fog or like this cloud looming over them.
Right.
Like it's not like as happy as the first one. It's more so the realization of what their love is to them.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned fate, because Jesse's talking about, it's like, what are the chances? We're both here together. And Selena's like, I live here. I saw your face on a poster, and I deliberately came to meet you.
And the book he wrote is literally about their night, but like it's not like explicitly about them. But she's like, I read it and it seems so familiar. And then I got to the sex scene, I'm like, oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's, what I really liked about this one is, it's first of all, it's the shortest of all of them. It's 80 minutes, and once it ended, I was like, "That's the end." Which I loved the ending, but I was just like, I need like 6 more hours of this. But something I loved about this one is that there isn't a lot of like explicit intimacy. They don't kiss, they don't have sex like they do in the first one, and so every time they touch, it just feels like, oh my God. Like it feels so electric, the same way when you're with somebody who you like may or may not become intimate with. You're like, oh, is this it? Is this the thing? Like it was just this, are they just going to be friends and realize that one night was that one night, or are they going to pursue this further? Yeah.
I love Ethan Hawke says, I feel like if somebody were to touch me, I'd dissolve in molecules.
That's right.
And then the moment when they finally like hug and embrace each other, she's like, I want to see something. Yeah. I want to see if you dissolve into molecules. And he's like, how I'm doing? And she's like, you're still here. And he's like, good, I like being here. And I'm like, I'm like, I just want to rip my face off. Like, stop. This is like so much. Yeah.
And then they go back to her apartment, and she plays this song that she wrote about him, which I truly cannot think of a more vulnerable thing than playing a song for somebody that you wrote, but that you wrote about them. Like, and he's just staring at her, and he knows this is it. And she goes into her Nina Simone impression. She keeps saying, you're gonna miss your flight back. And he says, I am,
baby, you're gonna miss your plane. He's like, I know.
Yep.
Oh, I love that ending so much. When I first watched it, it ended and I was like, what? Wait.
Yes.
But then I was like, no, but that's perfect.
That's perfect. And it's in real time too.
Which I love that. I think that's probably why it's my favorite too, is because it is the most like, this is happening and we're just following along.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very fly on the wall. Like even more so than the first one, because it's just them, and you're following them everywhere you go, and they keep stalling because he has to get this flight because this is his last stop on the book tour. But he's like, oh, I have time. Let's go get a coffee. And it's like, oh no, they can meet me there. Let's get on this boat. Oh, we can drive you back to your apartment. Like it just keeps pushing that back, and that's so
like,
great.
when you mentioned her being vulnerable with her song, I think there's something like so telling about their characters that he wrote a book. It's a bestseller, and it's about their night together.
Right.
And like everybody's read it, everybody knows about it, and he's put it out there in the world. And she is so like nervous to share this song she wrote about them together, and he's probably one of like a few like people that have heard her song, and it's like very clear like she holds this close to her, and he does too, but in a way that's like, woe is me. And she's like, yeah, woe is me, but like I'm not a freak like you. Like I don't want people like in my business.
You know that photo shoot that Brad Pitt did on the beach where he's just like,
no,
that's what's coming to mind right now. I'll send you those pictures. Okay. Anyway, it's like very dramatic. He's like crying. It's like, ooh, sad boy Brad Pitt.
That's
it's like
Jesse is like sad boy. Like in all these movies, he's so sad boy. And I love that Celine calls him out on that.
Yes,
she like calls him out on his bullshit. It's like, thank you.
So that's Before Sunset. So the last one is Before Midnight, which takes place another 9 years later. And they are a couple. Yeah, they have decided to live life together. They have twin girls, and Jesse is co-parenting his son from his previous marriage, Henry, except he lives in Europe with Celine and their kids, and Henry lives in America with his mom most of the time. So it's very much like this is what being in a partnership with somebody is.
My first note is the midlife crisis one ... This is like the just the real one. That's what I refer to it as. I saw a TikTok from a podcast, Escape or Raiders of the Lost podcast, I think. And they described the first one, Before Sunrise, as fantasy, Before Sunset as hope, and then Before Midnight as reality. And it's like, because I like it's one of those things, like I feel like there's certain movies that like you watch and you're like, I don't ever want to watch that again. Like that just like took everything out of me. And I feel like this is that kind of movie. But like even still, I'm like, I love this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not in the camp of I would never watch it again. It was my least favorite of the three, but I think it's just because it was just a big tonal shift, right? We sort of go from this fantasy, this will they, won't they, to like, okay, they have, and now they're fighting like an old married couple, like you do when you're an old married couple, right? So they are in Greece with their kids. They're on this, like some author has invited Jesse to his Greek
author friend of his,
whatever. So there's like a bunch of people there, and that was one of the things too. It's not just Jesse and Celine like it has been the rest of the time. It's like actual characters, and they're at this big dinner, and we like get to know some of them. There are other named characters, which is sort of the first time that this happens. But two of the other people staying at the resort have given Jesse and Celine a hotel for the night to say thank you for watching their kids or something like that. And so most of the meat of the film happens there, where they are trying to be intimate without kids, enjoy a night, and then Henry calls, the beginning of the film starts with Jesse sending Henry back to America, and he's very upset that he's missing this kid's life, and he wants to be more involved, and Henry calls Celine and just says, oh, I'm on the plane, just letting you know. And she says, okay, bye. And she doesn't give the phone to Jesse, and Jesse gets upset about that. And then it devolves into this whole thing of Jesse wants to move to Chicago. Yeah. And she's like, what the fuck? We're not doing that. Yeah.
I think the reason this movie is so effective is because, A, you've had two prior movies to like get connected to these characters, but them talking about their sacrifices they've made, what they want, and like, because it's never like, I mean, in the second one, it's kind of established like what they're doing for work and like what they want for themselves, but it's never what they want together. And with this one, they're married now, so whatever they do, they have to do together.
Right.
And so like their argument about whether or not they should move to Chicago, and Celine's like, if I move to Chicago, I lose my job, or I have to do something else. And it's a lot of like back and forth about like now that they're married, like them being together isn't like what we want it to be, and it's not what they want it to be,
right?
And it's like the hard truth of romance and love, and
it's
like, oh.
Yeah, because you still see like flashes of it. Like you see at one point when they're driving back from the airport, they have the girls are asleep in the back and they're just talking amongst themselves, and they're like, they're bantering back and forth, and it's very cute. But then you get into this thing, and I'm again just so mad at Jesse all the time. Like, of course, automatically I'm probably going to take the woman's side here, but he keeps saying things like, "Let's have a rational conversation," and you're nuts, and it's like, shut the fuck up, bro.
She calls him out on literally cheating on her,
right?
And he's like, "You're acting crazy,"
right?
Like literally,
like, "Are you asking if I'm committed to you?" It's like, no, she's asking if you cheated on her.
I literally can't. I wrote down in my notes, like, when I watch that scene, I feel like I'm like intervening. I'm like, I can't be here. I need to leave. I need to walk away. But like, you can't. But I watched a video essay on YouTube. I'm forgetting who it's by right off the top of my head, but the person was like comparing this argument scene in this movie to other argument scenes in other romance movies, and how the screenplay kind of, it's not treating the conflict of the argument as like this like slow build. It's a slow build, and then it kind of mellows out when they're like talking and they're not yelling at each other. Yes. And then something happens and it starts peaking again and it goes back down. Yeah. And it's like this constant like kind of up and down of yelling, not yelling, trying to communicate. And like, I think that like the screenplays of these movies is really what carries them.
Absolutely.
And I think the way that Richard Linklater and then obviously Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, like how they kind of like navigate the discussion of love while keeping it as like conversational as possible is so interesting. And I really, really think that the argument is so impactful because of how like genuine and raw it is.
Totally. The National Enquirer. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay. The true stories. I had to get that out. But no, I totally agree with you with the flow of the argument. And that's how it like goes in life. You're like, okay, I gotta concede, I gotta calm down because I want to keep doing this. And they, they talk about like nice times together and they're like pouring wine and it's like, oh, okay, this is gonna get better. And it's like, nope, someone said something stupid and we're gonna go there again. And like Celine like leaves a couple of times, but then she comes back and she's like, oh, okay. And they're like sort of still fighting through it until, then we get to the end and she's sitting by herself in a cafe. And he puts on his smarmy Ethan Hawke face and he pretends to be a stranger. Oh, no, he pretends to be a time traveler. That's right.
And that's when we were talking about the scene in the train.
Yeah.
When he pretends to be a time traveler.
That's right.
It ends them together and he's like, I'm a time traveler. And like, if you leave me, you'll be upset.
I brought you this note from you in the future.
And it's like, so like, what I love is it's not a happy ending.
Right.
And it's so ambiguous, like, will they stay together or like, and I think there's like so many elements of each movie that like, I don't know if it was intentional, but they link to the other movies. So like the ending of this movie being so ambiguous kind of ties into the beginning of Before Sunset when he's doing his book tour and the reporters are asking like the ending, like you leave it up to like the reader's like decision. Do they stay together? Do they meet up? Like whatever. And he's like, I mean, it's how you view love. Like, you could be an optimist, you could be a pessimist, you could be somewhere in the middle. And what I love about the ending of the third one is that you decide, like, do they stay together? Like, it's kind of like the viewer's choice. Yeah. So. Yeah, and I love that sort of about all of them. You could stop at any point here and decide their fate if you don't want to move forward, right? But yeah, that one is definitely the most realistic, and maybe I just like living in the fantasy of the first two a little bit more. They're in the booklet that came with the Criterion Collection. The author writes like in all three movies you have like the conversation while they're walking together, but in the third one they like them, he says, them walking now is a conversational gambit. And so like they know each other's like tricks, I guess you could say. And so when like one of them goes to ask them a question, it's kind of like used as like a not like a argument starter, but like they kind of challenge each other now. Right. They're not like getting to know each other. Now that they know each other, it's like I don't want to have this like stupid like philosophical conversation.
Right. Yes.
I just like want to talk.
Right.
But like them talking is just them having philosophical or like political or social, like whatever,
right,
like discussions. And it's so unique because, again, it's kind of like they've been together so long that now what was once so charming in the beginning is kind of dry and stale now.
Right.
I saw a Letterboxd review, I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically like Celine, and then like, not a quote, but like, oh, this certain political or climate thing is pissing me off and I'm so miserable. And then Jesse, oh, this literature thing is pissing me off and I'm so miserable. And then it's just like them going back and forth about how they're both miserable, and then it ends with them being like, fuck you, no, fuck you. And it's just like, yeah, that's kind of like what this movie is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And like, you know, in the first two, they have all these, philosophical, esoteric conversations together, but like reincarnation or whatever. Yeah. And then when you're together and you have children, it's like these are these like real things that you have, and you have to manage this because you've created these people together and this life together. And it's like, like it's just so different. You don't have those conversations anymore because you got to think about, oh, did you do this? Did the kids get there, go to the doctor? Did they do whatever? And it's like, there's so many things. And
and like that's such a big part of their argument too, is Celine's like, I do all this stuff. You never ask me if I do all this stuff. I just have to do it because I know you won't ask. Yeah. And what do? You just lay around and read books and write books, and I hate it. It's like,
Yeah. No, I feel like a lot of women, myself included, have had that argument with their partners before, but I don't want to have to ask. I just want you to know. And he's like, well, how do I know if you don't tell me? It's like, I shouldn't have to tell you. No, okay, I'm getting PTSD here. So we sort of mentioned this before with Boyhood, but Linklater seems to be really interested in this concept of time, right? With this trilogy, with Boyhood, with Merrily We Roll Along, that's going to be shot as the cast ages in real time, and that story moves backward in time too. Is that something that draws you to these movies as well?
I think so. I think just any filmmaker who treats kind of like a fictional story in a way that is like almost nonfiction is very interesting. I think when I watch these movies, like they're, like we said, like they're so conversational. It's not like anything crazy's happening. It just feels like you're watching two people. Right. And it's almost like a National Geo like thing. You're just following these two people. And then when you introduce time into that, and like romance and like their lives, like I think that's so interesting. And like with Boyhood, you're watching somebody grow up and you're watching these changes, and I think any good character, you just watch them evolve and change, and like how they deal with the changes and everything and the personal conflict. And I think with these movies especially, it's like them catching up every 9 years, and we're doing the catching up along with them. And so it's kind of like you're reflecting on them while you're also like, well, me 9 years ago, where was I? Like, and it's like, I don't know. There's something so introspective about that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just like constantly like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what's going on? Like, but I don't know. I think there's something so fascinating about that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm just sort of realizing now that there aren't really, the movies don't really follow like a hero's journey sort of plot line, right? Like the plot of the first one is just, we have this deadline. She has to catch this train, and that is just, it's their time together, right? And then the second one, sort of similar thing. He has this plane he has to catch. Is he going to catch it or not? And then the last one is like, they're leaving in the morning. They're leaving Greece, but like, are they going to make it, basically? But it's not like, we introduce the conflict, and then there's this, and then it's just sort of, we're just there with them. Yeah. And similar to the book you were talking about, exactly. I think that's just fascinating that it's just, I'm going to talk about David Byrne again.
That's fine.
In American Utopia, he talks about how people are the most interesting thing to look at, and what makes people more attractive to look at than the TV or a bag of potato chips or whatever. And I don't know, he's just a weird alien man. But I think that's just the thing, right? That people are the thing we want to look at most because it's the thing we relate to most. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, I think love is the thing that everyone can feel, has the ability to feel, and so that's what makes these movies so great.
There's a quote in the first one from Selene. Again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember off the top of my head, but she's talking about how the connection between two people, and there's always that spark. There's something so special about that, and so unique between person to person.
Yeah.
That makes love so interesting and like desirable. So
yeah. Absolutely.
One last quote though.
Yes, please.
From the booklet, Dennis Lim says, "Love is an ongoing negotiation between fantasy and reality." And I think that sums up this trilogy like so perfectly.
Yeah. Great quote.
Yeah.
So we're talking about trilogies today. At first I was like, should I do a trilogy too? And then I watched these movies for the first time this weekend. Maybe I should say that. I hadn't seen these before. And I'm so glad you gave me a reason to, because I loved them. But I was trying to think of another trilogy to talk about. And I was like, I don't know if there's another one I talk about, or I want to talk about. Like the first thing I thought of was Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, which is important to me. My grandpa introduced it to me really young, and that was important to him, and that was like this bonding thing that we had. And I do enjoy most of the trilogy Star Wars movies. I haven't seen very many of the one-off ones because I can't be bothered. But I looked at a lot of like most popular trilogies lists, and I either haven't seen a lot of them or I haven't completed them, because so many of them are like superhero movies or they're franchises and any of that. So potential hot take, because you submit a lot of our excellent hot takes. I don't think you can call it a trilogy if you keep going after 3.
No, yeah.
You agree with that?
At that point, it's basically a franchise.
Right, because a lot of them said like, oh, the Toy Story trilogy. It's like, well, they're about to do Toy Story 5. And the 4th one is terrible.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, great. And like a lot of them were like Indiana Jones. Yeah, okay. The first, I was going to say the Harrison Ford ones. He's in all of them because he loves money. But like, yeah, okay, the first 3. But then they kept doing them.
I find that people who describe franchises as trilogies want to only think about the 3 good ones and then like ignore it. Like with Toy Story, I'd say the first 3 are like all pretty like close to perfect. Yeah. And then 4th one stinks because why did we need that?
Why did they break up Woody from the gang? That's the dumbest decision.
Tom Hanks just like, oh, I don't want to make another $1 billion after the next one, like whatever.
No, I hate that. Yeah.
And then with Indiana Jones, of course, you have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is not good. And then Dial of Destiny, I think, is the most recent one.
Like we both looked at each other like, what the hell? I did not see that one.
I saw that. I was so excited too because I watched the original 3 before I saw that one. I was like, this kind of like sucks. I was like, wait, like
didn't they do like the weird de-aging stuff on Harrison Ford?
Looked good.
Sure.
But like you're watching it and you're like, I know this isn't real, and it's like weird. It's like Uncanny Valley, like
exactly, and other ones they had The Matrix, which definitely has at least 4, and a lot of them listed Alien too. It's like, how many Alien movies are there now?
Oh God,
like
I think 8.
I was gonna say definitely 7.
Yeah. Again, like the first, like it's so funny too because like people are like, oh, the Godfather trilogy. 3rd one sucks.
I haven't even seen the 3rd one, so
I
haven't
didn't
even put it on my
either
list.
because I've been avoiding it, but I just know from like people I've talked to, it sucks. Yeah. And I've like watched clips. It's like there's that one. I mean, Alien 3, very divisive. Yeah. I don't think it's that good. I was gonna say I've seen Aliens, and I saw Romulus, the new one, but I don't think I've seen any in between. So it's like, I don't know. It's like I feel like any trilogy, it slowly dies off towards the end. Like I love the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm like a Star Wars nerd. I've like, oh my gosh. But Return of the Jedi, even when I was a kid, like I was like, this is my least favorite, which is weird because there's Ewoks. And like who wouldn't love the Ewoks when you're a kid? But I always remember like the scene in Jabba's palace where Leia's like in that hole. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't like this. What are they doing? And then you get the final battle between Luke and Vader and the Emperor, and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people kind of like latch onto like, oh, this is pretty cool, like those parts. Right. Versus like the like really weirdly like over sexualized Princess Leia and like her outfit and like it's just, I don't know. Yeah. That was the only one that came close to me. I think that one is pretty even keeled, and I think it does like
I think all of them, from A New Hope to Return of the Jedi, on average, are all pretty good. It's not like Godfather 3 like drops off the cliff at the end, right? Yeah. And I also think it does a good job at like sort of telling the story throughout 3 movies. It's not like, oh shit, we got to come up with material for this last one. So that was my contribution.
I think, if I had to think of like the ideal trilogy, is probably the original Star Wars trilogy. Yeah. Because I can't think of another one where like, I mean, I guess Toy Story, but that's not a trilogy.
But it's not a trilogy anymore.
Like,
right.
You had such a good thing, Pixar. Why did you have to ruin it?
No, I don't know. But I loved watching this too because it was an example of a trilogy that isn't a big franchise. Yeah. And it should they do a 4th one? Well, we're now out of the pattern. We're now 9 years past. So hopefully I like that it
I think it also
stays how it is.
Yeah, it works perfectly too because it's almost like a cycle where in the first one you're not even introduced to the 2 characters at first. You're introduced to like this arguing German couple.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the last one, like right before it ends, they have this huge argument, and like they are now the couple that was on the train 18 years ago now. Yeah. So it's like kind of coming full circle.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, it's not wonderful that they're arguing, but like, I love that. I'll have to revisit them in the future soon. Okay, I have one more question for you.
Of course.
If you had to choose, would you rather your favorite movie get a sequel, a prequel, or a remake?
Oh.
I mean, Before Sunset is a bad example because it has both a prequel and a sequel.
I'll do When Harry Met Sally because it's like a close second.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie. I think if Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan were like closely attached to the writing, and Rob Reiner's still alive, right?
Yeah.
So like a sequel, I think would be fun. I can't guarantee it's going to be good,
right?
Because like all legacy sequels kind of lose the charm,
right?
But if you like, most of the original like people are still alive, so yeah. Maybe a sequel would
I feel like
work.
Billy Crystal is now almost the same age as he like portrayed when he was Miracle Max in Princess Bride. And it would be kind of like that.
Well, didn't they do the Super Bowl commercial this year?
Oh, did they?
I think they did a Super Bowl because I remember I saw a tweet and it was like them sitting on the couch like where they're at the end of the movie and they're talking and I'm like, no way, but I never watched the Super Bowl, so it's like, well, I did watch Super Bowl, but I only watched the Kendrick performance and then
that's the important part. Yeah.
But yeah, I probably would do that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was trying to think of the same for myself, and if he was Singing in the Rain, which you have seen, I would not.
You were like so ready to diss me. I saw like the eye roll.
It kind of begins with the prequel because Gene Kelly's character is talking about how he and Donald O'Connor's character, I can't think of their names right now for some reason, but how they grew up together, and he's making up this story and it shows how they actually rose to where they are now. So I think that kind of does it. And a sequel I don't think I would want to see, so I think I would go with a remake, actually. I'm not one of those people that is like, a remake ruins the original, because I always have the original to go back to. And maybe that's a theater thing because shows are revived so often and we see new people do different things, and I'm sort of used to that idea. But I think I would pick a Singing in the Rain remake.
Who would you want, like, to direct
that's
and
the
cast?
Thing too. Original movie musicals aren't done as frequently as they were before. So there's not like, you'd either have to pick somebody from Broadway, which would make no money. True. Or you'd have to put James Corden in it, or Hugh Jackman, or somebody of that. Yeah, Hugh Jackman would be Gene Kelly now, which I hate.
Would Ben Platt be what's his name? I'm forgetting the character's name. But
I know
his
the Donald
buddy.
O'Connor character.
Yeah.
I'm
Josh Gad.
I like Josh Gad.
I don't dislike Josh Gad.
Yeah,
I like him enough to where like if he was in that role, I could see him. Playing that character.
Have you ever heard of a movie called The Rocker?
I think so.
It's with Rainn Wilson, Emma Stone, Josh Gad, and they're like, Rainn Wilson is like this loser uncle that moves in with Josh Gad's family, and they start a rock band, and it's like very good. Who's in it? I think Jason Sudeikis plays their like record producer or whatever. And at one point they're in the studio and they play their song and they go, "How was that?" And Jason Sudeikis said, "John Lennon is rolling over in his grave to hide the boner you just gave him." Like it's really stupid, but that was my first exposure to Josh Gad. He's like a young kid in there. It's very good. Yeah, Josh Gad would be good. I don't know. They're just like, they don't make him like Gene Kelly anymore, you know? Yeah. Who's a tap dancer?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I mean, Hugh Jackman.
I know.
Like, he's like, I don't know. Who would direct? My first thought was Damien Chazelle.
Right.
Because he's done so many, like, but I don't know if he could do, like, I guess La La Land was, I think of La La Land more as a jazz movie. Because, like, the musical elements are so jazzy.
Right, and like Whiplash, which I love as well. Who else does musicals? John M. Chu comes to mind, of course, In the Heights and Wicked. Rob Marshall has done a lot of musicals. I mean, Little Mermaid was not great, but Chicago was amazing.
I feel like an older director could be unique too.
Someone that has that connection to Golden Age stuff.
Like Scorsese. He's like a big classic.
I would love to see a Scorsese musical.
I think I've heard about him working on one before, but I don't know if it ever became
I loved Spielberg's West Side Story.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was great. But they also he had so many Broadway people working on it, right?
That's
like
true.
Tony Kushner did the screenplay and Justin Peck did the choreography. That's what I want. I want Justin Peck to direct it.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah. What a dancer. We saw Illinois last year and it was amazing.
That was like the one show that I was like, I need to see this. Yeah. And then it closed in August.
Yeah, it was just a limited run, I think. Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to like get the money to like go see this in time.
And it's not something they do regionally either because it's just dance and they were just amazing. But
and I just love Sufjan Stevens so much.
Yes. Oh, it was beautiful. But yeah. Jack, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything you want to plug while we're here?
I do have a book talk account.
Yes, please.
Yapping About Books. YAPPING about books. Where I just talk about books. I post like semi-frequently, depends on like how much I'm reading. But other than that, I don't think so.
Amazing. You work at the Archive Coffee House with Aiden in Burnt Hills. You guys just had your grand opening.
We did.
I was there before the grand opening, and it's a wonderful space. They've done a great job there. Coffee's great, food's great, company's great. Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yay. This is amazing.
Two Show Day is hosted by me, Diana Shabai Booker. Cover art is with contributions from Ivy McGurran. If you'd like to get in contact with us, please visit our link tree at linktr.ee/2showday.